Thank you, Chairman. So what we had in mind for Tobias to do is to link the presentation of David and bring it to the panel discussion. And I think that's the golden thread of what we're trying to do with the Congress. Different countries have different problems, but what needs to be done to keep ourselves on the farm? And the saying that we link to it is what keeps farmers awake at night, and our farmers are problem solvers. And David told us what he's going through in Argentina. He talked about their tax, the export tax, their governments, their elections, etc. We in South Africa is also going through our own storm. We have an election this year. We are going through a dry cycle. So we have our own problems as well. So it's just bringing that linkage to our panel discussion. And we are the five panelists up front here, but we will want also to invite the rest of Congress to see yourself as part of the panel. So please engage. It will be a nice open discussion. So maybe to start off, Koos, to you. We as South Africans have our own problems and similar situations what we saw the Argentinians are facing. How do you handle it on your farm?
Corné, thank you very much. Prof. Johan Willemse, I saw him this morning. He always talks on the controllables and the non-controllables. So if the non-controllables keeps you awake at night, you have to go and see someone. And if controllables keeps you awake, you have to get up and do something. So if I listen to David this morning, it's we in South Africa still farm with our own equipment, and we invest a hell of a lot of money into our equipment to do all our work for ourselves. And I think it's vital in our businesses that we must make sure that our equipment is used productive and efficient. Productivity and efficiency in our business must be way up there to get us through the storms. If I can also connect to that, I think the people that works on our farms, the people that they must be part and parcel of our plan, and they must be equipped with the right skills to get our equipment to work very efficient and productive for us. That's just one of the things.
Thanks for that, Koos.
Yeah, Koos, I think if I can add towards that is if we look at the whole macro environment that we're sitting in, we don't have subsidies. The rest of the world and our competitors has got quite large subsidies. If you just look at America, 50% of their crop income insurance is subsidized. And just think of what that difference can make if we've got something like that in a local environment. Your marketing is better. You know exactly when you can market because your produce is already actually fixed. And just that insurance and that surety it provides creates a whole new effect. But the scenario we're sitting in is we don't have it. So with tight margins, we need to keep efficiencies as high as possible on all spheres. And we know our producers are very good in terms of efficiencies that we've seen. Everyone that's coming to us from outside of the world says, your producers are doing it on a precision basis. They're looking at everything to the point to make sure that there's no losses. But through the value chain, we also need that efficiencies. And through the value chain, we need to make sure that all the efficiencies is there because it's not just at the producers. So kind of given that is, I've got a question is, you were involved with the citrus industry at large as well. And we get into a space where we can do a lot of, from a private sector side, and you can do a lot of things up to a specific point. And then you need to go and sit with the government of the day to say, how do we fix this? Because there's some spaces you can just not play that role. And part of it is infrastructure. And we know the citrus industry did a lot at the harbours to try and make sure that efficiencies is there better. And we've heard David this morning as well, where he said the politicians, we needed to go and sit with them and explain to them what's going on. So, Mkali, how do you see that microenvironment? How do you see it that we can influence up to a point, but then we need to have a specific engagement? And how do we approach that engagement?
Thank you, Dirk. The problem is my English vocabulary only consists of about 230 words. So ek gaan uit Brits uit hardloop.
Mkali is voor myne. Myne was net how much too much in discount.
Nou, so ek wil dit net so sê want ek moet vir Koos bykom. Hy's mos 'n melker. En in die nuwe vertaling van die Boerebybel is daar 'n teks wat sê dat enige melkboer gaan eendag reguit hemel toe, want hy het sy hel op aarde gehad. En Koos, as jy dalk voor my daarbo kom, ag doen net vir my 'n goeie woordjie asseblief.
Mkali, ek kan ook vir hom 3 koeie skenk as hom wil hê. Dis ook help maar te kom.
Ek wil net nie vir Trixie hê nie, want ek hoor haar spene is nie lekker nie. Dirk, yes, I think as far as infrastructure is concerned, that is one of the achievements which the ANC has left us. They made a bugger up of everything. And this is my personal opinion. So I think I would like to refer to what has happened to the country in the last 30 years and just to remind people that you've got an opportunity to change this at the 29th of May, and especially my black friends and the emerging farmers, the commercial farmers of the future. So we are not only sitting with a problem with the ports. There's a whole list of problems. Thank you, Praveen Gordhan. So what we realized is we can only solve the problem at the ports from an industry side. So fortunately, we are organized in the Citrus Growers Association, and we pay a voluntary, a statutory levy of 146 cents a carton. So we've got the money. And the next step was to appoint people who are dedicated to work with government. So Mitchell Brooks was appointed with his team to drink the 50 cups of coffee that you do with your Senate, yeah. So that's where it all starts, is to have that relationship and to know the people so that we can communicate with them, because they don't know anything about transport. As you said, they don't know anything, politicians don't know anything about agriculture. So I mean, that's the first step. So it must be done on an industry basis. And JP, you've mentioned today that maybe grain and citrus should take hands and see what we can do collectively. So that was the first step. Have the relationship and influence the people. We invited the previous DG, Portia Derby, to our farm. We spent a day with her, and that relationship and the trust that was built during that day, she actually trusted us so much that she said, listen guys, you know what my problem is with the ports? During the Zupta era, they siphoned 32 billion rand out of my budget. That's why the cranes are not operative anymore. And my other big problem is the unions. They are so strong that the moment that we start to talk about privatization, you sit with a backlash from the unions and say, but the moment that you privatize, I'm going to lose my job. So take that into consideration. So the dynamics of the process, which means that you will have to have a relationship with the unions as well. And then you get to the point where you get the international investors, as been mentioned today, what has happened in Mozambique, and a lot of investment is taking place in Durban. We don't know about it at this stage, but gradually. So we have privatized one of the keys for the citrus organization. And so gradually, I think that is what we need to do. So resources, first of all, and to have the personnel dedicated to do that job and have that influence and have that relationship and try to create trust.
Yeah.
We've got to mention the relationship and the trust side, and I think, David, you've seen in the intro videos as well, we do a lot of relationships with government, and specific in the research sphere, because we've seen we need to do research. We need to invest in that to make sure that we have a sustainability going forward. So Grain SA as an institution play a huge role to coordinate research and make sure that the research happen at the right places for the right time. How do you guys approach it in Argentina in that instances with the institutional capacities of it? We know Porter's model that says institutions is a foundation of competitiveness. Do you have similar structures? How do you approach the research sphere in Argentina, and what would you like to have in such an instance?
Okay. One of the basic problems we have as a country, we have weak institutions. We lack leadership. The people, the chairs and presidents, but we lack leadership, true leadership with a strategic vision. So that's what we're lacking. That's why we have. That's why, as farmers, we put together a lobby group. It should have existed 50 years ago. Nobody was doing it. So, well, you have to do it. So, what is important, I think, for a country is to have strong institutions, well represented with a strategic view. And the other thing also is that we've always viewed politicians as an opponent. We've got to work with them, not against them. We've got to learn to work with them. They have their agenda, and it's fine, and we have our own agenda. We've got to learn to work with them. Talk to them, the trust. They don't have to be friends, but we've got to work together if we want to get things achieved. I don't know if I answered, but we lack a Grain SA. I'd love to have one.
That's good news to hear.
Yeah.
David, also coming back to you, we had a long discussion on the road. Your exports. You told me about your different exports, ports on the river, and the state-owned versus private companies. Tell us a bit about that and what works and doesn't work.
Okay, I hear you speak about logistics. We've got from the farm to harbor, we've got bad, very bad, and awful roads. So 90% goes by trucks. The railway system was excellent 100 years ago. The other day they re-inaugurated a railway line, a long railway line. When they re-inaugurated it, the train took longer than when it was inaugurated in 1910. So that infrastructure is not good. What is very good is we have a river system, the Paraná River, that comes out of Rosario, deep water, so that's good. And the government privatized all the ports, so you have many ports, one close to the other one, where the big players are there. We've got a couple of locals, but mainly Cargill, Bunge, Dreyfus, Syngenta. I mean, they're all there, all the big guys are there. And they have, in soybean, they have the silos, and they use the white bags. They have the processing plant 20 meters down, and 20 meters down is a river. So that part is extremely efficient. What is not efficient is transport from farm to harbor. There we get, it costs us about between 20 and 25% of the value of the grain to take it to harbor. But harbor works very well. So that's what we perceive. We would like to have more use of railway, but
David,
do you wanna add?
if I hear you correct, you would prefer having more privatized infrastructure. In other words, if the roads and the trucks, must that also be more privatized and less government? Am I hearing you correct? Would that be better?
let's see. Whoever runs it has to run it correctly.
Okay.
Be it private, half and half, or none. We like competition. We are competitive. Farming is one of the most competitive businesses because you compete against the rest of the world. People with subsidies, without subsidies, different climates, better logistics. So we like that. For example, the railway I was telling you about, you know who runs it? The Truckers Union. Guys, come on, you know.
Yeah.
So it's private. Yes, it's private. But
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So it's make it efficient and make it competitive. I understand in Australia, they also privatize the port, but they oblige the port to allow 10% of the grain going out to be somebody else's. What's the trouble? I'm not that size, but if I were to want to export grain, I can't. I don't have a port. So, you know, it's you've got to do things so they're very competitive and they're good for everybody.
I think a question is from my side is we've recently seen the whole Landbou Weekblad conference we had where it was all about improving the rural areas. And I think it's part of this whole privatization type of discussion where we as communities need to sometimes say, all right, now we're going to do it. So we're not going to wait anymore. We can't wait anymore. It's just a fact that we just can't wait anymore. Otherwise, we'll go backwards. So we need to put in more in it. And in terms of your community and involvement with that, how do one approach that? How do one say, all right, this is the stuff that I really need to get into? Because if you look at the list these days and you need to get into everything, the list gets quite long. So how do you approach it? How do you say, if you sit in your business as a farming operation and say, where's the stuff that I need to get involved? Where's the stuff that I need my organizations to get involved? How do you make that decisions?
Dirk, yeah, it's a difficult question. I can just maybe tell you guys a little bit of what we've done. I sleep 600 meters from a very big squatter camp, and I sleep every night. And I sleep, I don't worry. So what we did is all the businesses around that squatter camp came together, and we generated a forum where all of us puts a little bit of money in there, and we meet with the leadership every once in a month, and we pay certain things for them. We will subsidize some of their kids in schools. We will, if they've got a beauty competition, we will sponsor that. And as I'm sitting here now, we are together with that squatter camp and the leadership there. We are bringing up a neighborhood watch and bringing safety and the police, trying to get to do that better, and that's for the benefit of everybody in that whole community. I think there's some things that we can't change. We can't change how our communities look. We can't change who is there and who is not there. We have to find the ways that we can work together and to bring advantages for everybody involved. And we've done that after we had quite a bad abruptance in our community with power lines being cut and stuff like that. And since we've worked together, we haven't had, touch wood, that kind of disruptiveness to the businesses. The people in there now realize that the businesses around them are providing them with jobs, and they are dependable on us, and we are dependable on each other. And I think that's the way to do it and to go forward.
So it's a social impact, but it's actually improving your business because of the result that came out of the social impact.
Yes, it's not 100% successful. There still is issues, but it's better.
Great. Guys, let's come back to infrastructure, exports, etc. We are well known in South Africa for thinking out and coming up with the best solutions and the best plans in the world, but where we lack is implementation. So we've got the AMP plan, and our chairman just told us that we created the Grain Value Chain Roundtable, and that's where industry, the private sector, and the different spheres of government come together. So I really think that's a step in the right direction. If we hear what happens in Argentina and other countries, yes, privatization is a very good solution, but you can't do it without your government. So we are thinking of the PPPs, the public-private partnerships. And for me, I think that's one thing which needs to be on Grain SA's table for 2024 to to start implementing. We've got this great plans. Everything that we've been discussing today, even the motions that were brought to Congress, all of that's written in that plan already. Deepening the harbor, the logistics within the harbor. Everything is written in there. It's now about getting together all the role players that's needed from private sector and the government departments to start implementing.
Are you asking a question?
I'm making a statement, but I would like us to discuss this, and I would also like to get the rest of Congress to also participate in this discussion as well, because I think that's one of the tools we have as private sector to get this country forward. I wish I could tell the president today, if we only fix 3 things, that our economy would have actually grown by more than 5%.
Yeah. Can I react to that? And I think basically we should look at 3 different ways to future-proof ourselves. And the first thing is, how do you make yourself future-proof as a business? That's the one discussion. The second one is, how do you make yourself government-proof? And it's not only in South Africa. I mean, you need your whole point is we're struggling with government. And all of us sitting here, and I would say 100% of us in our businesses, is family businesses. So the third point is, how do I make my family business family-proof? Familiebestand. So I would like to react to the second one, how do you make ourselves government-proof? And here is my answer. I was sitting on a panel discussing the AAMP with Toko Dadisa at AGDA. And afterwards, and I made a comment on the 10 good points of AAMP, because it's a good, is it a law, a bill?
It's a plan.
A plan, yeah, okay.
Policy guide.
And I know what time has been spent by Yanni and John and those people trying to get, I think it's a good plan. So the problem is with the implementation. And afterwards I asked Toko, drinking coffee, what is your biggest problem? And she said, my biggest problem is that we don't take decisions on cabinet level. Everything has got to go back to Luthuli House. Because in the tripartite alliance, we've got to get the buy-in of the Communist Party, the SACP, and COSATU, and that takes a lot of time. So it will not be implemented from government. Beloof you. The other thing is, we are totally leaderless in South Africa. I mean, give us our national development plan, for instance, and look at what our president talks about. Instead of giving us a plan and say, listen, this is what we're going to do in South Africa, and create some hope and to create some focus. I've never heard anything from him as far as that is concerned. So if we expected, Corneille, for government to implement it, it will not be, that sal nie gebeur nie. So the point is, how can we help them doing that?
Yeah.
And I think that should be an collective from all the different commodity organizations, not grain alone. You've got to get red meat, you've got to get milk, you've got to get poultry, you've got to get citrus. All of our, and that's what I think you are trying to do with your Brazilian model. Yeah. So that you can have a strong lobbying group that can actually sit with government, and because they're starting to listen to us. I've realized it in the past, and they say, listen, food security means we need commercial farmers. Yep. And that's us sitting here. How are we going to help them? Because they cannot say that from the public, from the political floor, but they start to realize it because everybody has got to eat 3 times a day. And I mean, that's one of our most strategic assets. Ek weet nie of ek jou gehelp het met die antwoord nie.
No, definitely.
Corneille, I think we must add something else. Talking to government, it's necessary, and we have to change the people's minds. But we are sitting here as the farming community, the food-producing community. We should talk to the logistics community as well. Otherwise, the big companies that's got the ability to make a change in Durban Harbour. And we need to get them to buy in to our plan, and then it will be easier forcing it through, I think. Because in life, it's better to work with someone that is thinking the same than you are, and then wants the same end result as the one that does not want the same end result as you want.
Ja, ek gaan vra Kongres dat as daar iemand is wat 'n vraag graag wil vra, dan kan julle julleself so lank regmaak om 'n goeie Engelse vraag te vra. Kan julle na een van die mics toe beweeg. Maar terwyl julle dit doen, gaan ek twee goed vra. Ek gaan dit so 'n bietjie plaas toe bring vir ons. And I'm going to bring it back to farm level quickly and ask for the free producers. I think a lot of the producers ask me in the break, please ask this question. We're currently in a drought scenario. We're sitting in it. We've talked of all of this stuff we don't have yet. How do I survive this cycle? Because it's all about cycles. How do I get through this cycle? And what would be your quick advice in terms of this cycle? And then before we get some input from Congress, I'm going to ask Tobias if you want to add a summary or a bit of an addition to it as well. So I'm going to ask the three gentlemen to give us a bit of a guide, and then Tobias, if you can do a summary, and then we'll go to Congress.
Moet ek begin?
Kali kan begin.
First of all, I would like to see your financial statements. Die somme, en dit wat op die papier staan, gaan vir my sê hoe goed gaan dit met jou besigheid. So first of all, you've got your income, and nou kan jy your income, I mean the only calculations that the farmer can make is deductions. Good. Al somme wat ons kan maak is aftreksomme. So jy het jou budget ingesit en jy het gesê ek gaan 8 ton oes en nou is dit net die helfte. So the top line will be influenced this year. The rest is your expenditures. Dis al jou uitgawes. Now, you can only cut your expenditures to a certain point. Jy kan jouself nie uit die moeilikheid uitspaar nie. Is dit waar? You can get to a certain point, and then there's nothing more that you can do. And then you get to the bottom line. And I think what is important is that if you focus on the top line, there are 3 things that's important. The first thing is production, and we can control it under normal situations. That's where you need technology, and you need seed, and you need digitalization, etc., etc. The second thing, which is influence your top line, is prices. And we are sitting in a negative price cycle. There are maize, soybeans, wheat, everything is overproduced. So we're going to wait for some sort of El Nino in the northern hemisphere, or even in your place, because you are producing the surplus soybeans, you bliksem.
No need to thank me. No need to thank me.
I dink bliksem is 'n mooi woord. So there's a surplus, and we've got to go through this. It will change eventually. The third thing is quality, and that's where the geel pitte en die wit pitte en al die goed ter sprake kom. Quality remains, and the fourth thing is exchange rate. You cannot control exchange rate, but it is normally in our favor. So I think the focus should be on the top line, and the last thing I just want to say is your debt to equity ratio, jou skuld tot bate verhouding. And we know that if you take a long-term view and you say, what's going to happen to my business in the next 10 years, there will be a new drought. There will be some world situations that influence your top line and that will influence your bottom line. So have a good debt to equity ratio. And the average in South Africa now is 51%. So if you take your total assets of all the farmers, we owe 51% to the banks. So watch out and not to go too high so that you can go through sort of crises like we are now at this stage.
So you need to like your banks.
Well, that's all we've got at this stage. But, I mean, the banks are not state-owned. They're private banks, and we created them. Our oldest bank was created by farmers in South Africa.
Okay.
They call it Blapsa.
Blapsa.
David, your advice?
the way, this is what happened to me in another environment, another country and all that. But I try to explain it a bit. What we try to do is be able to keep on participating. And I want to keep on in the same. So basically it's what you were saying, but we don't work much with banks. So, there are different ways you can get financing, get together with another farmer, risk sharing, there are many ways, and that's what we look at, because the first thing that's important is look at your balance sheet, your invoices and all that, budget for next year, and then try to look who can help you finance, be it risk financing or not. In 2008, we lost 20% of our operating capital. It took us 3 years to get back. But you get back, because farmers are strong, we're resilient. But white hair. But you do it, and you find, input companies, banks, your own money, you bring in somebody sharing the risk. There are ways. You've got to sit down and think ways out and speak to other farmers and try to find your way out. But it's not the end of the world, guys. I mean, you're strong enough.
Oh, thanks.
David, you've got white hair, I got no hair. It was bad.
But I'm 25.
I think I'm sitting here as a Western Cape farmer, which our situation is very much different from what we've seen just to drive down from the airport in the maize area currently. But in our business, or what we do is we make a deep study of the last 50 years weather cycles or the weather patterns, and we try our best to plan for what we've seen certain things in there. And that enabled us to make certain adjustments in the season if you see the season is turning out to be one that you've recognized in the past. I mean, so it's about doing the calculations, and it's about being realistic on what you are expecting out of your business. I think one has to be realistic.
Yeah.
There's always my dad always said. Sorry for the Afrikaans, salig is hy wat min verwag. But you shouldn't expect nothing. You should expect something. I mean, that is just what we do.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I think Chairman and Tobias, if you want to add something, you're welcome. Otherwise, we're going to set it open for the rest of the Congress to add some to the panel discussion.
To the gentlemen of the panel, thank you very much. It's most certainly food for thought. I'm sitting here thinking, if I was a youngster sitting in the audience today, facing the drought, facing the reality of the next couple of months, the next year basically, and how do I get through that, there's certainly a lot of wisdom and a lot of basics that are on the table. They are there. And my contribution to that discussion would simply be is listen to the wisdom that is out there and speak to it and share and find, what does David say? Find the solutions. This isn't the end of the world. You will get through it. We are resilient. Tobias?
Chair, I'm happy that we go with questions from the floor at the moment. I don't see anybody moving. But if you don't start asking questions, I'm going to ask the questions on the app. Otherwise, this is going to be an exam, guys. Let's give a few minutes, a few seconds. Richard?
Sure. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is the functioning of the banking sector in South Africa. If the reality is that we go through the season in the summer cropping areas where there are losses that are being made, the availability of production capital remains one of the biggest challenges the sector faces. The Financial Service Board and the rules and regulations thereto don't allow for roekelose lenings.
Reckless lending.
Yeah, reckless lending. There have been numerous test cases, etc. On that. If Kali's figure that he's quoting, 51%, is the liquidity percentage within the sector at the moment, that's really concerning. And Toby, I welcomed you, and I don't want to take you to task, but I think the functioning of the land bank and the role that it played some time ago, maybe that's a discussion we should have in the going forward is really the availability of capital to farmers. I think this is going to be one of the biggest hindrances, and perhaps the panel can comment on that, to production going forward and food security in the country. It is, Chair, simply if you are faced with a zero sum for the coming season when it comes to harvest time, how will you finance your inputs and your production in the year thereafter? And this is a grave concern, and I hope the media also picks up on this. I think it's one of the biggest concerns we have as a board and your elected leadership for this organization at the moment is the sustainability of the farmers in South Africa. And there was mentions made of a disaster relief fund. I think this kind of fund is imperative to ensure the sustainability of the sector, given climate change, and we are a climate negative country. And when I say that, I mean that the figures we saw of Argentina are rainfalls in excess of 1,000 millimeters for some of their production areas. With our heat units, etc., South Africa is a water scarce country. Yet we do phenomenally well to produce food and feed the SADC region. Not only South Africa, the SADC region. And I think we'd like to take note, and maybe the panelists can comment on these statements that I've made. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Richard. Nobody from the floor yet? I'll tell you an observation that I've also made in the process. There's a very harsh reality that we're on our own in this thing. But it's inconceivable to think that we as farmers on our own can find a solution. Repeat that, it's inconceivable to think that. The grain industry is an industry with a well-developed value chain. And we need to put everybody around the table. We need to collectively find the solution to the issues, these type of issues, because I don't see any opportunity that government is going to be the assistance to carry the industry through this type of disaster that we've had. So we need to think innovatively. We need to sit around the table. Kali, what do you say? If you're not on the table, you're on the menu. And David actually during the tea break added a sentence to that one, Kali. I'm sure you love it. And the farmers are the main dish. And the farmers are the main dish. So it's up to us, and when I say it's up to us, I don't mean the farmers. It's up to us as the grain industry to find our way forward. Thank you very much. Comment? You go ahead, Jeremiah.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to comment on the issue of, from the panel discussion on the issue of drought. I think we need to really get engagement with all the stakeholders involved, especially on the government side. If you listen to the motion that was raised by Ntate Polo from the Northwest, it's not only him, but across the country we are experiencing this drought and the dryness and the no rain. And a farmer that has experienced drought, floods, and excessive rainfall, 3 years in a row, we are out of business. And especially for the developing farmers that are coming into the space, into the agri sector, it's really a concern, a serious concern. I drove around the country from the Eastern Cape towards up until to the Northwest, same problem. Serious concern, developing farmers will be out of business, as what the motion has been raised today. So this is a really serious concern, not only for developing farmers, but all the farmers across the board. If we're experiencing this and you don't have profitability and sustainability in the business, it's really a concern for us. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I want to wrap this up now, Dirk, and hand it back to the panel for perhaps a last word of encouragement to our farmers to take home. Dirk's microphone.
Hello.
There you go.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I think one of the things we must be proud of is that we as an organization can be able to engage with government. And that's why we've got officials today here. And we appreciate that they're here, and hopefully we can take these discussions even further. We've got a lot of collaborations that already work. Let's build on it and make it even better. I would like to ask a last comment from each of the panels, your closing comment and your last view. Not last view, your future view.
Okay, my future, hallo, kan jy my hoor? Het ek ligtyd?
Ja.
Goed, dankie. I think my future will be determined by partnerships and partnering with the right people. And I've got a partner that really looks after all the critical success factors in the whole value chain, and that are focused on the right issues with dedicated personnel and with loyal personnel. And that partner is Grain SA. Thank you very much, Grain SA.
David, from you.
Yes. Okay. What keeps me awake is government policy. We have no government policy, so that's something we try to work on. You know, the rest, whether I can't manage, I try to. The rest. But what I have learned is working with other farmers, you learn a lot and fast. So these sort of meetings and what Grain does and that, we don't have something like this, but I have various peer groups. And those are very good when things are bad, because you can go back and discuss with them and try to find a way around. And other farmers are usually very helpful. So yes, you go through bad times, then good times and bad times. But if you can learn from other farmers and work together, it's a very good learning experience and it'll help you further down the road. Farming is needed. We'll keep on farming. I hope I'll be one of the farmers. That's the largest issue. But there's so much to do and so much technology coming in, which is fascinating. So it's forward-looking. I think it's going to be a fascinating world for us. All the technology is coming to us, not for us, but it's been invented for others. And I think that we've got to look forward, and it's hopefully, but it's also nice. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun road. Today it's a bumpy road, but it's going to be a fun road ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I have to add to what Mkali says is we as grain farmers should be grateful that we've got a Grain SA. What we as individual farmers should go and do is to make sure that in our own business we must measure the measurables and make sure that they fall within the places where they should be. And then only then if your own business is in place and if your things are running as good as it could, then I think the rest will follow. And engage with people that thinks like we do, and engage with the people that will bring us what we need. I think, yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you to the panelists. I really think it was a fruitful discussion. I just also want to say this. We always throw stones at government, and yes, history shows us that, but we've got people here like the DDG of agriculture. That was quite a tongue twister. Mr. Sarachi, and I know he's committed. He listens and he definitely tries to help us. I know Jonathan Matunga, the Registrar of Act 36, that registers our agrochemicals, is also here, and that shows their commitment. So I really want to thank you, the panelists, for your contribution. I think it was fruitful, and it fits in well with our theme of our Congress. Thank you so much.